Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Anthem and this is my review/video essay on the amazing video game Webbed, a physics-based puzzle platformer developed by the Australian studio S-Bug Games. I'm going to be honest. I wanted this video to be an homage to the old Digropter series sequelitis, specifically the Mega Man episode. I know video games teach you how to play them, but this game doesn't really teach you how to play it in an immersive way. Not that it's a bad thing. The instructions are clear, and to show me what to expect from each button, they put my boyfriend here to demonstrate. The controls are a bit more complicated than jump and shoot. I have 360-degree control over my little spider, and why would I guess that I can shoot lasers out of my eyes? So it will be just an inspiration. Let's take a step back. We play as a little spider, a peacock spider to be specific, and as you have just seen, my beautiful boyfriend who spins rainbow silk has been abducted by a damn bowbird. And I took it personally. So I go on an adventure across Queensland to gather help and save my sweet gem of a boyfriend. To get all the bugs to help us, we don't just need to go to them. We need to master our abilities. Abilities that I must imagine were developed around Miyamoto's quote, "A good idea is something that does not solve just one single problem, but rather can solve multiple problems at once." And I'd like to explain that with our first allies, the ants. Following a brief discussion with our moth friends, who sends us on a mission to gather components for a hot air balloon, we go meet the surprisingly Russian ants, who agree to help us if we help them build an ant mecha. An endeavor that's somehow way easier than expected. The ant hill mostly challenges our abilities to maneuver in tight spaces and object manipulation, starting with the copper gears scattered across the tunnels. In the tutorial, we learn that if we shoot a web, we can propel ourselves to walls, and the game knows that we are not dumb. So we shoot a web at the gear and wham, it rolls to us, all thanks to Newton. Our heroine is a peacock spider, which is known for their beautiful abdomen, striking colors and little dance. The dance is a way to attract a female spider, and they use a third leg to strike on their belly like a tiny drum. You might be asking, what happens if they are awful dancers? The female eats them. Well, sometimes, usually if she's really angry or the male one is being annoying and not leaving. Though it's common for the female to just leave. And for those of you who are still worrying, the female might still eat the male even if his dance was successful in winning her over. We move on deeper into the anthill, pushing and pulling a couple of levers until we reach the main hall and talk to Comrade Carl, who gives us a to-do list for the mech. We are free to complete the list in any order we want, so we choose to help with electricity. There we meet another comrade who needs our help through the mud and asks us to do his job for him. So we are faced with a couple of challenges. Opening and closing them automatically and bringing the gear into its box. The moving bars are a continuation of our basic parkouring skills, but moving the bars automatically isn't. So we try another action we learned at the start of the game, drawing a web between 2 points. Using that skill, we connect the lever to the moving gear, which in turn opens and closes the gates automatically. We try this again in the next section, connecting 2 levers to the moving platform, which again opens and closes the way for us. Finishing with pushing the gears to the bottom. Seeing how in this entire room the mechanic was drawing a web between 2 points, we tried it again with the comrade and the gear. And we managed to bring them up after drawing 3 dozen webs, and finish the room without anyone telling us how to beat it. Learning to expect that most skills have multiple uses, as the web that we use to create floating platforms can now be used to connect objects. We continue in the anthill, fixing the watering gas, connecting all the legs, and are left with the challenge that encapsulates the tunnels, i.e. the mandibles. I will skip on the gears in the room and talk about the main event. The mandibles needs to be brought to the forge, which is high up compared to them. So we smart peeps know that connecting an item to the ceiling brings it up. So we connect the mandibles to the moving platform, which lifts it to be in line with the forge, only to connect it to another moving platform that needs to be automated. That was easy. The challenging part comes after the mandibles leave the forge. They are hot, and touching them kills us. So we are either forced to die multiple times moving them or trying a new approach. In the tutorial and probably across the covers, we saw that the eye lasers tear apart webs. And by now the player probably wonders what happens if he shoots something that is not a web. We find out quickly that it pushes it away, so we try to use it on the mandibles and it works. We can easily move them without dying a dozen times. Finishing the mech with all the lessons we learned, gaining the ants' help. Golden orb weavers get their name from the gold-colored web they draw, as you could have guessed from the game footage. Their silk is considered especially strong and was used by fishermen in the area for catching fish, by rolling the web into a ball which spreads to a net in the water. We're back to the tree hub where we take a left, only to find out the land is covered with mud. We try to jump from a higher place only to reach a floating island with this ugly fella. We try to jump off it but miss by a few centimeters, so we choose to try another exit for now and go higher and to the right, to find an entrance to the trees, where we meet our second group of friends, the bees, who want us to bring pollen to the queen. Unlike the anthill, most levels here are more skill-based than puzzles, requiring you to create webs for yourself or swing between branches. This can be tricky, but it's still just the game letting you master skills you have already learned. At least until we reach a tree trunk filled with spikes and a gust of wind. At first we might assume that we took the wrong turn, but the game gave us the solution with the level design. By putting leaves right on the edge of the branch, although we might understand that the leaves are the solution, we are unable to grab them, so the developers took care of that. The entrance to the bee area is located high in the tree hub, forcing us to climb up there. As we scale the tree, the leaves on the edge of the branches make it nigh impossible not to grab them, so that when we do eventually web a leaf, we realize that it can be turned into a teeny tiny parachute for our teeny tiny protagonist. Truly a sneaky way to teach us a mechanic, without asking an unfortunate bee with explaining it to us. After giving Queen Bee the pollen and returning to the tree hub, we are faced with the slippery entrance once again. But it just happens that now when we land on a flying island above the mud, we see a leaf there, and use it to glide into the beetle zone. In it, we are going to learn how to deal with mud and expand our abilities to manipulate objects. There are multiple great locations that help us master item manipulation, but the poly system level is the best of them. Unlike previous levels where you need to move stones and logs, here you need to combine and use them together to pull the right poly down. The solution is simple when you see the left poly stuck on the ground, but the game steals the carpet from under you by lifting the left poly too high to reach even with your longest web. So we are left with two options considering the mud-covered walls. The first one is to create a maze of webs searching for small patches not covered in mud and hopefully find a spot high enough that you can reach the platform. Or you can take the fun way. On our journey, we've probably found out that when drawing a web to attach to another item, we can draw longer and longer webs. So we try and get as far away from the closest point to the poly that we can attach a web from, and switch to the other web mode, zapping us across the room and high enough to attach ourselves to the platform, finishing the level. Despite commonly known beliefs, the black widow's bite is rarely fatal, and despite their name, male widows are rarely eaten following mating, as they tend to avoid females who are too angry and hungry for their abilities. But in case you worried that there wasn't enough cannibalism in your favorite spider, don't worry, as the big hatchling spiders tend to eat the smaller ones. Finishing the zone and helping Papa and Mama Beetle kick their son out, we get to roll down the best eel in the game and get the dung we were looking for. Before we continue to the final chapter, I would like to showcase how good we have become in the game. Remember the entrance to the beetle zone, the one covered with mud that we needed a lift to reach? I believe we are good enough to find different solutions in future playthroughs. Following our march in the beetle zone, we learn to look for small patches of clear walls, and if we climb as close as we can to the door, we will notice that a patch exists, allowing us to connect the floating island to the door. We also learned that we can propel ourselves into the air, so using the branch on the floating island we can thrust ourselves to the entrance. And the last one, and my personal favorite. We learned that we slide on mud and that shooting lasers pushes us. Combining that with a barrock at the start of the mud, we can generate enough speed to race through the mud while shooting lasers out of our eyes, reaching the beetles completely covered in mud, but satisfied. Gathering all our friends, we start building the hot air balloon. Using the beeswax to seal the balloon, the beetle's dung as fuel, and the ants engineering to build it. Followed by drawing dozens of webs, and the bee continually bringing me up to the balloon because I am unstable. We reach the bird's island where we are tasked with finding our boyfriend and rescuing him. This stage wraps up everything we learned and shows us diegetically how to solve the new puzzles. Either by ejecting the shining stones from a place that looks identical to the one we need to put them in, or having the first time we need to hide from the bird be a level where there is only one solution. Of course, the stage references a lot of our earlier adventures. Either the anthill with the gears, the beetle village with the aforementioned hiding from the bird, the wind current from the bees forest, and the general item manipulation we learned across Queensland. including a platform that we need to steer while we are on it. When we find our boyfriend, we lead him to safety by dancing, which he can't resist and follows. We reach the bee, but before we can get back to the air balloon, the damn bird steals our boyfriend again. But we don't falter and give chase, having an airborne fight with the bird, culminating by dropping the ant mecha owner and threatening her to never come back. And that's how Web ends. A charming game that is aware of its own mechanics and takes pride in them, believing that they are both complex enough to allow player expression and simple enough that beyond teaching a player what a button does, it leaves the entire world to be explored. And exploration there is, as for a game that lasts at most 3 to 4 hours, it's packed with nooks and crannies to explore. For example, there are a couple of underwater sections that make you adapt to swimming, the sensor traps that appear maybe 3 times in the anthill, the breakable walls, the array of collectibles that test your web weaving and parkouring skills, grant you cool accessories and alternate spider skins, and the biggest one of them all, skating. If you're not the adventurous type, you might have seen a skating bird in the credits and thought to yourself, I haven't seen this guy. Well, it's for a good reason. Hidden in the anthill is a skating park populated by 2 ants and a bird on skateboards, which I'm learning while writing is from another game called Skatebird, which is fitting. A fully realized mechanic with a giant room built specifically for it. S-Bug of course wanted people to use this non-essential mechanic, so obviously there is a classic of skateboard games here, collecting ladders, which spells webbed of course. Finishing that little mission grants you the ability to summon a skateboard anywhere in the world to enjoy this fun mechanic, which I am incredibly good at. I'd like to thank you for watching. Instead of liking and subscribing, go play the game. You will be supporting an indie studio and probably play the best Spider-Woman and Man game ever. Thank me later and goodbye. Ogre-faced spiders are lovely looking creatures with bright smile and sunshine floating above their face. Unlike most spiders that spin a web and wait for prey to come to them, or peacock spiders which go and hunt prey by hand, this one likes to spin a net between its front limbs so it would be able to cast it over bugs and entangle them. Finally, not for the faint of heart or people with arachnophobia or robophobia. In a new field of science and engineering which can be called necrobotics, I guess, researchers were able to animate dead spiders by pumping fluids into them, which caused their legs to expand and enabled the researchers to use them as tiny grappling claws. This discovery stemmed from the question of why spiders curl up when they die, which they answered by increasing the blood pressure inside the body.